Hello, and thank you for watching this CarePortal training. My name is Adrian Lewis, and I am humbled and excited that you are watching this video right now. Our hope is that over the next 15 minutes, you will have a good understanding of the why and the what and the how of CarePortal. You will be able to leave from this training with a ability to communicate to other people what CarePortal is. So to begin, let's start with the very first question, which I think is the most critical question. It's the why. Why does CarePortal even exist? Why are we doing what we're doing? To be very clear, there's a few whys. At our core, CarePortal is about every church doing a little. God has called us to focus very deeply and very intentionally about mobilizing the church. The church has a God-given responsibility, opportunity. Every individual who calls himself a follower of Christ is part of that word church. And so our role is to rally these local bodies of believers, these little communities, and give them the opportunity and awareness to engage child welfare, specifically to engage the hurting, the broken, the vulnerable, the downtrodden, the oppressed. In our culture, we don't call them orphans often, but they are. Every church doing a little in engaging the crisis that's around them as it pertains to child welfare. That is the core of what we're about. And as we do that, we also know that amazing things happen in the people in the church as they engage. Transformation of the church through child welfare is another thing that drives us. We want to see the body of Christ be all that Christ intended it to be. Not perfectly, of course, but there's plenty of work for us to do. And as we engage this issue of child welfare in the most vulnerable around us, we do create an opportunity to be transformed in the process. And my heart longs, and the leadership in this ministry longs, for as many believers to be transformed as they give their lives away as possible. And we believe as we do these things, as we engage the church and the church is being transformed, something else that is critical will happen. The child welfare system will be transformed by the church. Now, how awesome of a vision is that? For in this country, the church to be known as the people who care the most about and have done the most about the most vulnerable in our culture. This is what we want to see happen. We know that it's all possible. This is God's idea. And so we are humbled and grateful that CarePortal gets to be part of it. And as you engage here and you understand these whys, these will drive everything that you do. Now the next inevitable question, if we understand our whys, is, okay, well then what? What specifically is the role that CarePortal plays? There's a lot of things that we could be doing in this space, but we know what our piece is. Our piece is to connect your church, the church, to local children and families in crisis. And that all happens through a partnership that will be established and is being established between child welfare and the church. Now, this could take a lot of forms, but we've simplified it as much as we can to understand the different components. So if you look at this grid and you think about it as being a platform, an underpinning, an understanding of child welfare and how the church can engage, it will make a ton of sense to make this very simple. In child welfare, there's major buckets of how they separate things. So prevention, foster care, adoption, transition, those are categories of care and engagement. Child welfare puts things in those buckets. And then the church can come along and say, all right, well then how can we engage those different buckets, those different categories? And we've broken them to 3 tiers to make it very, very simple. Tier 1 is physical needs. Physical needs are all about things that are barriers to people being preserved in their family, or children being able to be adopted, or a foster care placement that might not fall apart. And those things could be a crib or a bed or an electric bill. And sometimes it's really hard to understand how those little things, seemingly little things, can be the difference between families being together and falling apart. But they are. And we see it all the time. in the places where CarePortal is operating, child welfare workers are ecstatic about when the church responds to these seemingly little things. But they're big. They're so big. And we get an opportunity as the church to step into, just a little bit, into the mess of crisis that are in people's lives. That is tier 1, meeting physical needs. And tier 2 is relational, a little messier. We engage our own self, our time, our talent, to babysit a mother's children so she can keep her job, to tutor a 14-year-old who is 2 years behind in school because they've been bounced around from foster home to foster home, to come alongside a 12-year-old who needs a mentor because they've never had a stable man or woman in their life. These are really critical things. To come alongside a family and teach them some financial principles or a parenting class. This is very relational. This is tier 2. And as the church engages in this space, amazing things happen. Tier 3 is all about becoming home. It's about bringing the most vulnerable into your place. Being a foster parent or an adoptive parent, or taking in an 18-year-old who's aging out of the system, or maybe even in a preventative way, bringing a whole family in who's on the brink. Now we know that is not for everybody, but it is for many. But for everybody, there is something. So when you look at the grid and you think about prevention or foster care or adoption or transition, when you think about investing in and becoming relational and becoming home, there's a place for everybody at the table. This is our structure. This is what it's supposed to look like. And so we invite you into our what. Understand this very clearly. The next question after what is how. All right, so you've got this infrastructure. You understand the grid. You understand the space that we're playing in. But how are you actually going to engage the church? How are you actually going to make a difference? How are you actually going to create partnership between the state and the church? We want to boil it down to 3 categories. The team, the network, and the technology. We're keeping this simple, very focused, understanding what our lane is. These are the 3 components. When you think about the team, you can think about this first with who are we serving? So the church is at the top layer on purpose, because all of this is about mobilizing and equipping and empowering the church to be the church. Well, we need people behind them to do that. Coordinators and regional managers and state directors and a central office. And so when you think about who these people are, they're real people. They're real people who have a passion and capacity, and you might be one of them who wants to see change happen in the church and in the child welfare system and in the life of an individual. That's what this is about. So when we define these roles, we think about the volunteer roles. The first level and the front line, if this was a battle, these are the front line. These are the point people at each individual congregation. So when a church enrolls in CarePortal, they have to establish at least one person who's going to be the point person. And they're going to be responsible for engaging the congregation. The 50 or the 100 or the 500 or the 5,000 who call themselves part of that local body of Christ. And that point person is going to engage them and share needs with them and walk alongside of them as they meet needs of people in crisis. Everything we do is to support them. And the coordinators are the next role of volunteers. Critical role. To rally 6 or 8 or 10 or 12 churches in a small local area to work together and to fellowship together and to understand the needs in that community. Coordinators are the ralliers in this local space. And then for staff, we have regional managers. And they really hold it all together. I mean, they're the ones who are maintaining the relationships between all the coordinators. They're the ones who are connecting with child welfare supervisors as needs are coming across the CarePortal. They're the ones who are in the grind of things and rallying the community overall. Critical roles. State directors are there to serve the regional managers and really to develop partnerships with new agencies. And then the central office is here to serve everyone, to provide some technology and some processes to move to new states. All of this is our team. And we are confident that the team is the most important thing that we can offer this space. It's always about people. And so this is how we organize the people with a passion for the least of these and in any given community. And what the team does is rally a network. The network is the natural outpouring of what happens when you bring people together. And so the team focuses on developing out opportunities for the network. We break the network into several categories. The first category is an active community. So this is where the coordinators come into play. And the coordinators gather together all the point people on a monthly basis. They have coffee, they talk about the needs of that have come through the CarePortal in the last month, where the church has responded well, woohoo! And where needs are not being met. What can be done here? This is our community. These are our families who are in crisis. Active communities are just that. They are communities of people who are actively engaged in meeting these needs. The next level up is the regional council. Regional council is by invitation, and it's led by the regional manager. Their intent is to meet quarterly and get really more into strategic opportunities across a whole region, which could be a city or a county, or in some places a piece of a city. Depends on how big it is. The people that would attend would be the coordinators from each of the active communities and specific agency leaders and maybe denominational leaders or key pastors in the community. And they would discuss highlights and funding needs for CarePortal. They would discuss existing partnerships and maybe new partnerships with agencies, challenges that come about, technology updates that are necessary. They would really be an overseeing kind of council in this particular geography. The next layer is the State Advisory Committee. This is organized by the child welfare agency that leads in that state. They know that the community has a significant role to play in helping families. The government is no fool about what's necessary in order to really bring healing. And so engaging the faith community is something that most states are interested in. And so we help them if they don't have one to organize this. If they do have them, we look for a seat at that table. And what we try to do is influence work that can be done to this end of engaging the church in that city, in that state. The final layer of this is the Central Office Advisory Team. These are a team of people who think about the technology and the processes and what it takes to run an organization and how to pull that all together. They really advise the central office and try to prevent us from making more mistakes than we're going to make already. All of these layers are invaluable to the network. When you bring people together for a common purpose, a common calling, lots of wonderful things can get done if it's organized. And that's what this network structure does. It keeps it organized. The third thing is the technology. And when you think about CarePortal, you probably think about that first. And that's awesome and it's exciting. And really when God gave this vision, the technology was the piece that popped first. And so it's important. But it's really just there to accelerate the relationships. The technology is supposed to be super simple. It's really emails and a website that are designed to bridge these unbridgeable gaps between all these child welfare agencies and the thousands of people sitting in the pews who could be resources, people resources, financial resources to hurting kids and families. And so the technology just ties that together. But it's got to be simple, and it really is. The website hosts just about everything that's necessary. There's a map that shows the requests that are needed to be met. There's a map that shows the churches that are part of the system. There's an event section that shows all of the events that are coming up for you to participate in, and the grid and its infrastructure is in there. The ability to submit requests, the ability for churches to enroll, everything that you need is here, and an email. And that's it. So when you think about the three pieces of the how, it should be easy to understand. Right now you should say, I got it. I got this. The team, the network, the technology, it all comes together. This is funded through and really owned by the local church. Ultimately, this ministry belongs to the church, and so we want to see them take it all. And then you get this picture right here. This picture is the summation of what CarePortal is. Why, what, and how we do what we do. I am thrilled, humbled, grateful that you want to be part of what God is doing here. I'll say it again. This is God's idea. We have an assignment to really bridge this gap. We have an assignment to mobilize the church. And we need every person that has a love for Jesus, that has a passion for the least of these, and an opportunity, a capacity to take this into their lives, to join us and watch what God does in a way that only He can. Thank you, and giddy up.